Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from around the world. A very warm welcome to SNS Coaching and Consulting Services. I'm so glad you're here. For those who are new, I'm Samia, and today I'm speaking to you in three capacities at once: as a working portfolio manager, as a PMI authorized training partner, instructor for PfMP, and as a certified portfolio management professional myself. What that means is simple. We are not going to treat portfolio management as a list of definitions to memorize. We are going to treat it as the way executives turn strategy into results. Next 2 hours as sitting beside a senior portfolio manager in the executive cockpit. You watch how strategy becomes a portfolio, how the right work is selected, how governance makes the decisions, and how resources are balanced, how value is measured, and how risk is managed at the level of strategy. Here is the story we will follow today. A private e commerce company is transforming its workforce through AI. The CHRO sponsors the portfolio. Adam Johns, our senior portfolio manager, runs the portfolio end to end. His job is not to manage every task. His job is to make sure the company is doing the right work at the right time with the right resources to achieve its organizational strategy. This is also the PFMP mindset, and it is exactly where exam rewards. So, with that, let's begin. Let me show you how our time together will flow today. We begin with why the PFMP matters right now, because this is not just another certification. It makes the shift from managing individual projects to managing enterprise investment decisions. From there, I will introduce SNS briefly, our role as PMI authorized training partner, and the learning support you can use after today. Then we move into the heart of the session, a full portfolio walked from beginning to end. I would like you to think of this agenda as the way a portfolio manager thinks of a roadmap. A roadmap does not list every task. It shows the major phases, the milestones, and the decision points. In the same way, we move from why the credentials matter to who supports your learning to how portfolio actually works, and finally to how all of it maps to the PFMP exam. The most important part is part three. This is where we stop describing portfolio management as theory and start watching it as executive work. As you listen, keep asking yourself one question: is this a strategic alignment decision, a governance decision, a portfolio decision, a risk decision, or a communication decision? This is exactly how the exam is organized, and by the end of today, it will feel very natural. We are now entering part one: why PFMP and why now. Begin best when we understand. Project management was enough when organizations really needed delivery discipline. Today, in AI, digital transformation, e commerce, supply chain, healthcare, finance, and government, leaders face a harder question. They no longer only ask, can we deliver this project? They ask, out of hundreds of competing ideas, which work deserves our funding, our talent, our executive attention, and our risk? The question is portfolio territory. The PFMP validates your ability to connect strategy to execution through governed portfolios or of programs, projects, subsidiary portfolios, and operations. Let me offer an analogy I will return to. A project manager is like a pilot flying one aircraft safely. A program manager coordinates several aircraft flying to the same destination. A portfolio manager is closer to air traffic control, working alongside the airline's investment committee. They decide which routes matter, which aircraft gets priority, and how to keep the whole system aligned to strategy. That is the level of thinking we are building today. So, guys, the PFMP sits at a senior level because it tests a different question. It thinks like, are we delivering the projects correctly? PGMP thinking asks, are related projects coordinated so the large benefit can be realized? PFMP thinking asks a quite different from project and program, and that is, are we investing in the right portfolio? Is a collection of programs, projects, subsidiary portfolios, and operations managed as a group to achieve strategic objectives. Hold on to those two words, strategic objectives. A portfolio is not a folder of projects, it's an investment vehicle. Here is a simple example from our case. Building one AI HR ticketing tool is a project. Rolling out several related HR automation tools together is a program. But deciding whether AI automation, workforce planning, succession, learning, and employee experience should all compete for the same pool of money and people, that is portfolio management. So the idea to carry with you is this: project managers do the work right. Portfolio managers help the organization choose the right work. On the exam, when you see many initiatives competing for limited resources, think portfolio and think alignment, governance, value, capacity, and risk. So this is that everyone is asking and everyone should ask. Why portfolio management now? There is a very compelling reason behind it. And the reason is because organizations are quite simply drowning in transformation work. Sometimes it's visible, and in some cases, even it's not visible, it's invisible. AI, automation, cloud, supply chain pressure, and customer experience all create far more initiatives than any organization can. A company can have excellent teams and still waste money if every department launches its own AI projects independently. Just imagine this. Visually see this. One team builds a chatbot, another buys a vendor tool, a third hires consultants. Each looks reasonable if you consider this on its own. Yet together, they duplicate effort, overload the same few architects, and fail to move the strategy. And this is why portfolio management matters. Prioritizing, governing, balancing, optimizing, and reporting the whole body of work. Think of a household with monthly budget. So groceries, school supplies, repairs, travel, every item is useful on its own. But the family cannot fund everything at once. Someone has to decide what matters most this month and what can wait. Portfolio management is the executive version of that discipline. The numbers on the slide, the projected growth in demands for project talent, and the higher access rate of mature portfolio organizations all points to the same truth. The work is shifting from running the business to changing the business, and that is the portfolio territory. And this is exactly why having a certification in portfolio management can be a career progressing move for you. This slide helps you decide whether the PFMP is right for you. And I want to take the pressure off the word title. The strongest candidates are not people called portfolio manager. They are PMO and EPMO leaders, transformation directors, senior program managers, investment leaders, and executives who govern a large body of work. The real test is not your title, it's your responsibility. Do you help evaluate? Do you help set the criteria for what gets funded? Initiatives are authorized. Do you balance funding capacity, risk, and benefits? And do you report performance to executives? And if the answer is yes, and you do so, you are already doing portfolio work. Think of the PFMP as a formalizing um, tool. A language you may already speak formally can be converted into a certification here. Many leaders say we need to stop low value work, protect our capacity, and focus on outcomes. PMI gives that instinct a structure: portfolio balancing, strategic alignment, a governance model, benefit realization, and portfolio performance. Here is a phrase to remember: the fit. PFMP is for the people who decide which mountain the organization should climb, not only how to climb it efficiently. So now let's demystify. PMP is organized into 5 domains: strategic alignment, governance, portfolio performance, portfolio risk management, and communication management. Notice the weights. Strategic alignment and portfolio performance are 25% each, together half of the exam. That tells you what PMI considers most important. Can you align work to strategy? Can you monitor portfolio so the strategy is achieved? Governance is 20% because a portfolio manager does not decide alone. You build the evidence and work through the governance model. Risk and communications are 15% each, and I would ask you not to underestimate them. At portfolio level, poor communication and unmanaged risk can quietly destroy strategic value. The exam is scenario based. It will not simply ask what a roadmap is. It will tell you the chief executive has changed strategy mid year. A high value program is consuming scarce resources. The stakeholders are divided, and then ask what the portfolio manager should do. Picture the exam this way: the examination content outline is the map, the standard for portfolio management is the practice drive. Eligibility matters because the PFMP is a senior credential. PMs that you have actually performed portfolio management and not only studied it. There are two pathways. With a secondary degree, PMI asks for more months of portfolio management experience. With a 4-year degree, the required experience is shorter, but the overlapping experience. You cannot count the same months twice. There is a full walkthrough of the full requirements available on YouTube channel. At your own pace, it tells you in detail the requirement, how to fill in application and things like that, using the PMI live web page, so you get the up-to-date information at all times. I would appreciate if someone from our office can put that in the chat. Thank you. So I will let you click on that if you want to quickly click on the video and save it. I will give you a moment. Alrighty, so let's start from where we left. Portfolio management experience. Running a large project is not same as running a portfolio. Project statement says I a portfolio statement says I evaluated components against strategic goals. I recommended scenarios to governance. I balanced capacity and I monitored benefit realization. So I want you to start thinking like an evidence builder. List the bodies of work you have influenced, what strategic objectives were involved, what components did they contain, which governance body approved the decisions, which artifacts did you create or rely on, such as roadmap, a management plan, a risk register, a benefit register, or an executive dashboard. Eligibility is not about sounding impressive. It is about mapping your real work accurately to PMI definition, and this is something we help you to do. I will keep this part short and practical because when you prepare for a senior PMI certification, the source of your learning genuinely matters. The PFMP is not an exam where shortcuts work. The questions are based on judgment. That means you need the official PMI vocabulary, a real understanding of the standard of portfolio management, and practice applying the exam tasks in realistic scenarios. As a PMI authorized training partner, SNSCCS teaches you from PMI aligned material and from practical interpretation. Our goal is not to help you pass, it is to help you think like a portfolio manager in the boardroom. Let me put it simply. If the PMP is learning to drive a car safely, PFMP is learning to manage traffic across an entire city. You need the rules, the timings, the signals, the priorities, and the ability to make trade offs under pressure. And this is exactly why guided learning helps. In the next few minutes, I will show you who we are and how we support you. SNS Coaches is built around one promise: real relationship capability, not memorized answers. We are PMI authorized at the premium tier based in Whitby, Ontario. We serve professionals worldwide preparing for PMP, PFMP, and the wider family of PMI certifications. The phrase I want you to hear is real knowledge. Real knowledge means you can explain why a component should be selected, deferred, terminated, or rebalanced. You can must prove certain decisions. You can also explain why capacity and capability are not the same things. And you can explain why value is confirmed through benefits, not assumed because a project was delivered. Our teaching style is straightforward: PMI vocabulary, a real world scenario, an executive story, and the exam connection. This is precisely what we are doing today. Think of us as the bridge between the PMI standard on one side and your real work as a leader on the other. By the end of today, you should not only know what the words mean, you should be able to use them in portfolio, conversation at work. This slide is about trust, and two things matter when you choose how to prepare: the material and the instructor. First, PMI authorized course where keeps your learning aligned to the exact language PMI uses, and a scenario-based exam is very sensitive to language. Recommend is not the same as approve. The governance body is not the same as the portfolio manager. Portfolio risk is not project risk. Benefit realized are not deliverable completed. Second, being taught by someone who already holds the PFMP matters because this credential carries a particular mindset. A PFMP holder understand the application, the panel review, the strategic nature of the questions, and the discipline of answering from the portfolio manager's seat. Here is the analogy. If you were training for a marathon, you would want a coach who has run the distance and know the official course. In PFMP preparation, the official course is the examination, content outline, and the standard. And the experienced runner is a PFMP certified instructor. So today we will hear both the PMI language and the practical judgment. A clean learning dashboard matters because PFMP preparation can feel large. There is the standard, the examination outline, the domain tasks, the knowledge and skills, the application, the panel review, and the scenario practice. Without structure, it is easy to jump from topic to topic and lose momentum. The dashboard at SNS gives you a single learning home. You can see your active courses, your progress, your materials, your quizzes, and your live classes access in one place. From a portfolio perspective, this is your own version of a portfolio management information system. A portfolio information system gives the portfolio manager one source of truth for components, risks, decisions, performance, and value. Your dashboard gives you one source of truth for your study. The lesson is the same in both worlds. Visibility reduces stress, and structure creates confidence. So, when you can see the whole body of work, you make better decisions about what to do next. Whether you are Adam running a portfolio or you are preparing for your exam. Smart Prep is a designated tool we use that all of our students have access to, respective of their course, or PFMP students as well. Smart Prep is designed to solve a very ordinary problem. Working professionals study at odd hours. You might get stuck at 10 at night on a concept like risk appetite or benefit realization, and waiting for the next class breaks your momentum. An AI study partner lets you ask in plain language. You might ask, what is the difference between capacity and capability, or why does the portfolio manager recommend rather than approves? It will clarify the concept, check your understanding, and reinforce the PMI vocabulary. We have also recorded a video on the introduction of SNS Smart Prep. Feel free to browse our channel for that. Let me be clear about the philosophy though. AI is a study aid, not a substitute for judgment. The exam tests decision making in messy scenarios, and that reasoning is yours to build. Think of it like a calculator. A calculator helps you with the numbers, but it cannot decide vision. In the same way, the tool can explain a term, but you must learn to apply that term to a real portfolio decision. So use it best as reinforcement. Read the standard, attend class, practice scenarios, and then use Smart Prep to close your weak spots until each idea truly sticks. A quick word about me. I'm Sami Abokar, founder and CEO of SNS Coaching and Consulting Services. I hold the full stack credentials you see here, including PFMP. I'm PMI's authorized trainer for all major PMI certifications. The most honest reason to prepare with us is this. I have personally earned the portfolio management professional credentials, so I have walked the exact path you are considering, and the guidance comes from lived experience rather than theory. There are three reasons it pays to prepare with me. First, official PMI content, because as a premier authorized training partner, our courseware is PMI licensed and aligned to the standards the exam is written from, not a second-hand interpretation. Second, a PFMP holder teaching the PFMP, which means I can coach the mindset, the scenario trap, and what experience review and panel actually expects. Things that are very hard to learn from a book. And third, depth from strategy to execution, because as an enterprise PMO and AI transformation leader, I tie every concept to a real portfolio decision, which is exactly how the exam tests you. I would love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn so we can continually connect beyond this class today. I would ask somebody from the office if you can kindly put in the chat my LinkedIn profile link. That would be great. And finally, guys, one thing that I'm really proud of is that I hold all and I'm authorized training for all of them. And that makes me a little bit different from other instructors in terms of that I have specialized knowledge of almost all the domains that are covered in strategy building and strategy delivering, particularly when it comes to portfolio management, because your portfolio standard is not even, I would say, the one-fourth of the PMBOK. So by going through that standard, you cannot pass the exam. It is much, much broader than the standard PMI has provided. And me having all the specialized certification myself, I can really explain the complex content into a very simple layman, relatable language that sticks. So with that, let's move to the next slide. So this is my invitation to stay connected after today, because PfMP preparation is a journey and most candidates benefit from continued exposure to the vocabulary and mindset. Use the website for program details, live classes, and self-study resources. Follow the LinkedIn page for ongoing PM insights and portfolio leadership content. I very regularly post on LinkedIn. That is all free content. Use the YouTube channel for lessons, walkthrough, and exam tips, and reach us by email or phone wherever you want to. I have given people option for a limited time to book 15 minutes free session, and I can give you guidance for free. When I was doing my certification, I learned a lot from free resources like YouTube, and that is something I love to do for others. I would gently suggest you to take a picture of this slide, because many people leave a session motivated but unsure what to do next. So your next step is simple: confirm your eligibility, choose a study path, and begin practicing scenarios. Here is a thought in portfolio language. A strategic objective with no authorized component is only a wish. A certification goal with no next action is the same. So make your next action concrete, contact us, take a plan, or book an eligibility review. With that, we are ready for the most important part of our time together: running a portfolio from strategy all the way to value. I will give you a quick 1 minute break if you want to grab your coffee or water, and then we'll restart the presentation. All right, guys, so welcome back. Now we enter the core of the masterclass: portfolio management from end to end, and this is where the exam starts to feel real. Our case is not industry company. It is fast moving, technology heavy, and operationally complex organization. The CHRO sponsors a global HR transformation portfolio because the company needs AI enabled HR operations, workforce planning, reskilling, succession readiness, and a better employee experience. Adam Jones is our senior portfolio manager. Picture Adam as the person standing between executive strategy and delivery reality. The CHRO says we need an AI enabled work. Team says we need people, money, tools, and decisions. Governance says show us the value and the risk. Adam's job is to connect all of that into portfolio. This single case will let us almost every major PMI concept, strategic objective, components, the charter, the roadmap, the governance model, prioritization criteria, the information system, capacity and capability, stakeholder engagement, the communication plan, the value management, risk appetite, the risk register, and management reserve. The story is simple to hold in your mind. Strategy becomes work, work consumes resources. Resources create trade offs, and trade offs require governance, and governance protects value. So, guys, this section introduces the fundamentals. And before we talk about roadmaps, governance, view, or risk, we have to be the thing we are managing. A portfolio is not a large project. It is not a program with more moving. It is an organizational investment structure. It holds components that may be related or completely unrelated, but they all exist to achieve strategic objectives. We will answer 4 questions in this section. What is a portfolio? How does it differ from a project or a program? What principle guide our decisions when a situation is messy, and who plays which role? Here's the analogy for this part, since you know I love analogies. A project is one film, a program is a connected series of films. A portfolio is the streaming platform itself, deciding which shows to fund, which to cancel, which audience to serve, and how to create the most value across the whole. I am dwelling on this because if you confuse the project, program, and portfolio levels, you will choose the wrong answers on the exam. PMI expects you to respond at the correct level of authority. Let me anchor the definition first. A portfolio is an organizational investment vehicle. That phrase carries weight because it tells you the portfolio exists so the executives can invest limited resources to achieving strategy. In PMI's term, it may contain projects, programs, subsidiary portfolio, and operations, and the components do not need to be technically related. They belong together because they trace the same strategy. At Northwind, a headcount forecasting model, an ERP AI copilot, a succession pilot, and an AI learning platform are very different kinds of work. One is analytics, one is enterprise software, one is talent, one is learning. They sit in the same portfolio because they all serve the CHRO's strategy of an AI enabled workforce. Think of a grocery cart. Apples, rice, soap, and milk are different items. One household has one purpose and one budget. A portfolio is the enterprise version of that cart. Strategy is the shopping list. Resources are limited, and Adam decides what belongs, what does not, and what comes out of the prioritize priorities when the priorities change. The rule to carry is this: strategy is the glue. If a component cannot trace to strategy, it is orphan work. So, this is one of the most important distinction on the exam, and a portfolio answer 3 different questions. A project asks, are we? It has a defined output, a temporary life, and success measured by scope, schedule, cost, and quality. Building the ERP AI co-pilot is a project. A program asks, are the related efforts coordinated? It groups related projects because together they create a benefit no single project could deliver alone. Developer AI enablement is a program. The tooling, the training, and the guardrails must work as one. What are we doing the right work at all? It is ongoing. It contains projects, programs, subsidiary portfolios, and operations, and its success is strategy realized, value delivered, risk balanced, and resources optimized. Picture a restaurant, guys. A project is cooking one dish, a program is coordinating a full meal, a portfolio is deciding the menu, the budget, the ingredients, the chef, and which dishes fit the restaurant strategy. So, on the exam, when the issue is delivery, think project. When it is coordinated benefits, think program. And when it is strategic fit, selection, prioritization, governance, capacity, or value, think of portfolio. So, principles are the standing commitments a portfolio manager honors when there is no simple rule to follow. On the exam, you will often see two answers and they both look reasonable. And the better answer is usually the one that protects a principle. So, guys, one on a sideboard in almost all major PMI certifications. And when it comes to the portfolio exam, there's hardly anything, directly from the standard. Standard is the kind of framework at a very high level, and the testing is very in depth. So you really need to understand the portfolio inside out, not from the theory perspective, but from the work, practical work experience perspective. So, regardless of if you're preparing for your exam or you're working as a portfolio, even when your title is not portfolio management, but you are managing the strategic objective delivery of an organization, you can really leverage these principles. The first principle is alignment. Every component must trace to a strategic objective, or it does not belong. The second is to balance value against risk, because we are not chasing the most projects, we are seeking the best mix. The third is to govern transparently on evidence and in the open. The fourth is to optimize continuously, because standing still is itself a decision, and the rest follow naturally. Engage stakeholders deliberately, match the work to real capacity, manage value from the beginning to end, and these connect directly to PMI values of responsibility, fairness, honesty, and respect. Think of principles as the guardrails on a mountain road. They do not steer the car for you, but they keep you from going over the edge when the road gets difficult. At Northwind, when the ERP vendor releases a new AI model mid flight, Adam does not protect what has already been spent. He reckons alignment, value, risk capacity, and governance. This is principle based portfolio management. So, just to remind you, the case study we'll be using is hypothetical, and our company's name is Northwind, and our portfolio manager is Adam. So you will hear that time to time in this class. I just wanted to clarify that you understand if you missed the first part of the presentation. So a portfolio has cast of roles, and the exam genuinely tests whether you know who does what. The sponsor is the CHRO, the sponsor owns the mandate. So in our portfolio, it is an HR portfolio, and therefore the sponsor of that portfolio is Chief Human Resource Officer. It could be a different, if you are dealing with the finance, could be Chief Finance Officer or Chief IT, or even a transformation project may not have like any chiefs, but this is just one example to help you understand the role of a sponsor. So in this case, our sponsor for the portfolio is CHRO, Chief Human Resource Officer, because it is an HR initiative. The sponsor owns the mandate and the budget, chairs governance, removes barrier, and is accountable to the executives for strategy realized. So guys, again, regardless of who your sponsor is, these are generic responsibilities. The sponsor does not manage every component, the portfolio manager does. The portfolio manager is Adam. Adam runs the portfolio day to day, selects, balances, and optimizes the components, recommend to governance, and reports value. The governance board is the HR investment council. It authorizes components, sets the policies and thresholds, and Adam recommends, the council decides, and that distinction is very, very critical. So, Adam, as a portfolio manager, does not decide but recommend. The portfolio analysts, our colleague Maya, among them, provides the data, the scoring, and the scenario analysis that makes the program and the project managers deliver their components and report up. And the EPMO provides the standards, the tools, and the information system. So think of a sports franchise. The sponsor owns the ambition, the board approves the roster and the budget. The portfolio manager is the general manager balancing the whole session. The program and project managers are the coaches delivering specific games. Everyone matters, but each role carries a different level of authority. And here is the example: the portfolio manager never approves their own major governance decisions. This is our portfolio in one picture, and the top down, and strategy flowing into execution. At the top is the organizational strategy, the HR objectives around AI and automation, workforce succession, and reskilling. The strategy authorizes the portfolio. Beneath it sits the HR transformation portfolio, and under that are the programs and subsidiary portfolio, work planning, AI in ERP, talent and succession, developer, AI enablement, and employee experience. Below the program sits the individual projects, from headcount forecasting to ERP Copilot to AI learning platform. And notice HR operations sitting alongside them, because the business must keep running while the transformation is happening. At the very bottom is the part that makes portfolio management real: the shared resources and stakeholders. The same AI architects, the same SAP consultants, the same change managers and HRIS team, components at once. Picture an airport. Different flights have different destinations, but they share the runway, fuel, and air traffic control. If everyone tries to take off at once, the whole system fails. Adam's job is to sequence, prioritize, and govern the entire system so that strategy becomes value. And this one page is the portfolio. Feel free to take a screenshot of this and look at that and absorb the information, or come back. We will be posting this video on our channel for you to come back and review if that is something you want to do, because I understand it is a lot to take in. So with that, guys, we'll take 1 minute break again, and I will see you in 1 minute. All right, so welcome back, guys. I guess as a portfolio manager looking to prepare for PFMP exam, this is very, very important for you to understand, guys. So what does Adam actually do all day? So remember, Adam is our portfolio manager. He does not sit inside every project meeting. He works at the portfolio level, and his work falls into four areas. First, strategic alignment. Adam translates the CHRO's strategy into structured set of components, and he keeps checking that they still serve the strategy as conditions change. So remember, guys, we are talking about HR portfolio here, and our sponsor is CHRO. So that is why Adam translates the CHRO's strategy into a structured set of components. So when the board accelerated the AI timeline, he resequenced components rather than simply telling team to go faster. Second, governance and decision support. He brings evidence-based recommendations to HR investment council. The council decide, so we can say that these are the governance group that holds Adam, the portfolio manager, accountable. The council decides, Adam recommends, and he never approves his own governance decisions. Third, resources and capacity management. He matches an ambitious roadmap to real capacity. And at Northwind, which is our organization, our hypothetical organization, that meant confronting the fact that only three AI architects existed, a single constraint that shaped the entire sequence. Fourth, value and performance. He is accountable for value realization against objectives, not merely for components delivered. And he reports that value to the council every cycle. Think of an orchestra. The project managers play the instruments. The program manager coordinates the sections. The portfolio manager is the conductor, making sure the whole performance serves the score. And this to keep in this, Adam is accountable for portfolio value, not for the task completion. And that is the major difference between a portfolio and a portfolio does not have an end date, and it's continuous. So you cannot just finish a project or program and hand it over to operations and do not think about what happens after. Portfolio includes operations as have to make sure that the investment has returned. The portfolio life cycle is continuous, as I said, and this is where it differs from a project. A project has a defined portfolio continues for as long as the organization has to pursue. There are four broad: charter the portfolio, validates the strategy, identifies the first components, and establish governance. Planning builds the management plan, the roadmap, the capacity plan, the risk approach, and the matrix. Execution runs the components and watch for the progress. Optimization rebalances the mix as value, risk, strategy, and capability shift, which is the new norm. And running through all of it is monitor and control. It is not a quiet phase at the end. It is the heartbeat of the portfolio. Think of a garden, guys. You do not plant it once and walk away. You plan, you plant, you water, you prune, you remove what is unhealthy, and you add something new, and you adjust the weather. Portfolio management is that kind of continuous care. In a single month, Adam may be executing the AI ticketing project, planning a new reskilling initiative, optimizing the ERP copilot scope, and closing the completed component all at once. And this is simply normal portfolio work. A portfolio manager cannot decide well without trusted information, and that is why the portfolio information system matters so much. PMI described it as the tool and techniques used to gather, integrate, visualize, and share portfolio information. In plain words, it is the portfolio's single source of truth. It holds component status, decisions, risks, dependencies, costs, benefits, and resource data. It lets Adam answer the questions that matter to executives: which components best support strategy, which are consuming scarce resources, which risks threaten value, and which benefits have actually been realized. Picture a cockpit. A pilot cannot fly safely if the altitude, speed, and fuel gauges are unreliable. A portfolio manager cannot recommend responsibility. Responsibility, the cost, schedule, benefits, and risk data are scattered across inconsistent spreadsheets. At Northwind, our hypothetical organization, the information system is exactly what made the month 7 ERP pivot credible. Adam could compare cost, capability, capacity, value, and risk on real data, and that turned stressful enterprise into a governance ready recommendation. So, on the exam, when you see inconsistent reporting, poor visibility, or executive or different numbers, think information system, portfolio reporting, and governance transparency. So, with that, strategic alignment, one of the two heaviest domains on the exam. Strategic alignment is about keeping the portfolio's component connected to the organizational strategic objectives at all times and not just once at the beginning. The examination content outline describes evaluating strategic goals, defining prioritization criteria, ranking priorities, identifying component review scenarios, recommending a scenario to governance, assessing the impact of strategic change, and creating the roadmap. This is a great deal of language, so here is the plain version. Strategy tells us where to go, prioritization tells us what matters most, scenarios show our options, governance decides, and the roadmap shows the sequence. Think of your car's navigation. The strategic objective is the destination. The prioritization criteria are your route preference. Fastest, safest, avoid the tool or whatever you like. The scenarios are the route option it offers. The roadmap is the route you choose. And strategic change is the momentum the destination moves and the system has to recalculate. At Northwind, the CHRO's AI enabled workforce strategy is the destination, and Adam's job is to make sure every funded component still helps us arrive. Remember, for exam, when strategy changes, the portfolio manager runs an impact analysis and recommends adjustments. Recommends, again, the key word here is recommend, not decide or approve. They do not simply tell teams to work harder. The portfolio strategic plan is the bridge between organization's strategy and the work we actually authorize. The portfolio will pursue, how success will be judged, the governance approach, the risk appetite, and how components will be prioritized. The idea to hold on here is the 100% coverage rule. Every strategic objective should be supported by at least one component, and every component should support at least one objective. No uncovered strategy and no orphan work. This is the core of portfolio management, guys. So each strategic objective should be supported at least by at least one component, and every component should support at least one objective. No uncovered strategy and no orphan work. So, thinking of studying for an exam with 5 topics, if you study only 4, you have left an objective uncovered. If you study a topic that's not even on the exam, that is orphan work. Both waste your time and effort, and a mature avoids both of them. Adam maps each HR objectives to its programs and projects, and then he checks the reverse. If a project cannot name the objective it serves, it is challenged, deferred, or removed. So the exam, when a component has no strategic traceability, you do not optimize its schedule. You question whether it belongs at all. This slide shows the ladder from a vision to a measurable objective because many organizations stop at inspiring words. Portfolio manager has to make those words governable. The vision is the future state, Northwind becoming agenda. The mission is why the portfolio exists now, to transform HR so the workforce and its tools make the future possible. The goals are the broad outcomes, automated teamwork, reskill people, accelerate hiring, and the objectives make those goals measurable and time bound. The 5 objectives, each with we can actually govern. The phrase to remember is simple. You cannot govern a wish, you can only govern a measurable objective. Let me connect risk appetite here too. Appetite is how much risk we are willing to accept in pursuit of our objectives. A threshold is the point at which a risk demand action or escalation. A tolerance is the acceptable variation around a target. Think of a speed limit. Appetite is how comfortable we are driving quickly on the road. The threshold is the exact speed at which we must slow down. The tolerance is the acceptable range around our planned speed. Northwind has a high appetite for AI innovation, but a low appetite for data privacy and operational risk. And that dual stance shapes every selection and threshold that follows. The charter and the roadmap are 2 different artifacts with 2 different jobs, and the exam likes to test the difference. The portfolio charter formally authorizes the portfolio. It gives Adam recognized authority to apply portfolio to strategy, and it names the sponsor, the structure, the objectives, the key stakeholders, and the high level governance. It is the mandate to act without. Portfolio manager has no recognized authority. The roadmap, by contrast, sequence the portfolio. High level view of components, dependencies, milestones, and decision points across the planning horizon. It is not a detailed schedule, it is a communication and decision tool. Think of planning a journey. The charter is your official permission to travel and purpose of the trip. The roadmap is the route, the timing, and the major stops. At Northwind, the roadmap revealed that 3 components all needed the same AI architects in the same quarter, which focused a re-sequence before execution even began. That is power of roadmap. It exposes the collisions early, so the exam, if the issue is authority, think charter. If the issue is sequencing or dependencies, think of a roadmap. So, guys, selection and optimization are not one time events, and this is a key idea in PFMP. Selection is how Adam evaluates a proposed component against criteria such as strategic fit, expected value, risk, cost, dependencies, and capacity to deliver. Optimization is ongoing work of balancing benefits, risks, and resources so the portfolio stays at um, the best possible mix. The exam loves to test human bias here. Sunk cost bias says we have already spent the money, so we should continue. Loudest sponsor bias says the strongest voice in the room wins. Overcommitment bias says we can do everything if people just work harder. PMI portfolio management pushes back on all three with transparent governance and evidence based criteria. Think of a wardrobe. A good wardrobe is not the one with the most clothes. It is the one with the right mix of your life, your space, and your budget. And when you need change, you remove or replace them. A portfolio works the same way. At Northwind, Adam scores components, rank them, check capacity and risk, and bring recommendations to governance. And as strategy shifts, he may add, defer, reduce, or terminate a component. The phrase to keep is optimization means choosing the best mix, not keeping the most work. So, portfolio managers, this slide shows strategic alignment as a concrete table because this is how Adam converts each broad HR objective into a measurable portfolio objective with a clear a target and named components. So automating routine HR work becomes a measurable automation rate with the date. Reskilling the workforce becomes a coverage percentage. Reducing time to hire becomes an average number of days. Increasing developer velocity becomes a productivity index. And strengthening succession becomes a bench strength index. This is the alignment domain in motion. Adam evaluates the goals, sets the criteria, rank the priorities with stakeholders, identify the components, builds the scenarios, recommends one to governance, and lays out the roadmap. Think of archery. The objective is the target, the indicator is scoring ring, the component is the arrow, and if you cannot see the target, you can never know whether the arrow mattered. At Northwind, only the highest scoring, best balanced set of components is funded, which means a genuinely good idea can still be deferred if it does not fit the strategy, the value case, the risk appetite, or the capacity. So the exam um, tests you on like that. When a component is attractive but weakly aligned, your recommended or recommendation is based on the criteria, not on the preference or pressure. Now we move into running the portfolio and the governance, capability, capacity, stakeholder value, risk, and they are all not separate boxes in real life, they interact constantly. Picture a large work governance decides which orders take priority, capacity determines process in a day, capability determines whether the people and systems can handle the right kind of orders, Communication keeps customers and teams informed. Value tells us whether the network is producing business results, and risk management prepares for the disruptions. At Northwind, Adam cannot manage any of these in isolation. A governance decision changes capacity. A capacity constraint creates a risk, and a stakeholder concern threatens option. A risk response shifts value, and a shift in value triggers optimization. That is why PMI describes portfolio management as a system, and it is why the exam rarely gives you a clean single topic question. It gives you a messy business situation and asks whether you can find the portfolio level issues inside it. As we go through these areas, listen for the recurring patterns. Adam gathers the evidence, analyzes the impact, engages the stakeholder, recommends to governance, and keep the portfolio aligned to value throughout. Governance answers a single question: who has the authority to decide? At Northwind, that body is the HR Investment Council, chaired by CHRO, who's our sponsor, and it includes finance, technology, senior HR leaders, and EPMO, and one independent voice. In PMI's term, governance is the framework, the functions, and the principles used to guide portfolio decisions about investment and priorities. It score functions are oversight, decision making, control, and integration. The most important line on this slide is this: Adam recommends with evidence, and the council decides. That separation is what projects transparency, accountability, and fairness. Think of courtroom. The portfolio manager is like the advocate presenting the evidence and the recommendation. The governance board is like the judge or the jury making the decision. If the advocate also acts as the judge, the whole process loses its credibility. Gate reviews pre-justify each component at milestones, changes above threshold, go to council and escalate, follow a defined path. And notice that governance is built before components are authorized, not after problem appears. So the exam trap is very clear here, guys. If a portfolio manager unilaterally approves major funding or threshold exceptions, that is usually the wrong answer. The PMI aligned answer preserve the governance model. So again, the sentence you can remember here is portfolio manager recommends, not approves. Capacity management is where ambition meets reality. A budget may say we are allowed to spend, but capacity asks whether we actually have the resources to deliver. So PMI groups resources into categories. This is human capital, the people and their skills, are AI architects, change managers, and consultants. There is financial capital, the budget, there are physical assets, the equipment and infrastructure, and there is intellectual capital, the data, the knowledge, the tools, and the information system. The bottlenecks is the scarcest of these, the one that constrains the whole portfolio. At Northwind, the bottleneck is um, three AI architects, and every AI component needs them. When five components need the same three people in the same quarter, this is not a scheduling problem. It is a portfolio capacity problem. Six lanes of traffic merge into one narrow bridge. The bridge sets the speed for the entire road, and adding cars only make it worse. Pretend to the bottleneck away. He forecasts demand, analyzes supply, allocates deliberately, and sequence the roadmap around those three architects. So the exam instinct is this: when capacity is constrained, you do not prove everything. You sequence, defer, rebalance, acquire more capacity, reduce the demand. Capacity and capability sound like alike, but they are different. And the difference matters. Capacity asks, how much can we do right now? Capability asks, how well can we do the work the strategy demands? So you might have 50 people available, but if only three truly understand AI architecture and data governance, the organization does not yet have the capability for an AI transformation. In fact, adding more people without the right skill can slow the portfolio down. PMI describes capability as the organization's ability through its people, process, and systems to execute the portfolio and deliver value. So we assess the gaps honestly, plan whether to build, buy, or borrow the missing capability, develop our people, acquire what we cannot grow in time, embed it so it sticks, and sustain it as the strategy keeps moving. Think of a kitchen. Capacity is having enough cooks. Capability is whether those cooks can prepare the specific meals. If the restaurant suddenly starts serving sushi, more burger cooks will not solve the problem. So at Northwind, the AI learning platform and the skills work are not merely training projects, they are capability building components that make everything else in the portfolio more likely to succeed. So on the exam, when resources exist, the organization still cannot execute the new work, think of capability. So, portfolio communications are strategic, not just administrative. The communication plan defines who needs what information, when, in what form, through which channel, and for what purpose. Stakeholders are wide ranging in portfolios: the executives, the managers who control resources, the team building components, the people affected by the change are suppliers, regulators, governance body, and the sponsor. At Northwind, Adam sorts them into three groups. The governing stakeholder decide, the influencing stakeholders shape outcomes, and the affected stakeholders live with change. Think of a weather forecast. Different people need different forecasts. A pilot needs the wind and visibility. A farmer needs the rainfall. A commuter needs the road condition. On generic message, one message will not serve everyone well, and portfolio communication is just like that. So, Adam reports value, risk, capacity, and alignment to governance. He sends adoption messages to HR staff, and he crafts targeted, honest messages for the developers who fear that AI tools might replace them. Notice too that reports against the objectives, not against a list of busy tasks, and that he shares the real status, including bad news, early. The transparency is what kept the consul's trust and earned him the room to make the month 7 pivot quickly. So, on the exam, when stakeholders are surprised, resistant, or receiving inconsistent message, the answer is to analyze the requirement, update the plan, and engage the stakeholders proactively. With that, guys, we'll take a 5-minute break. And right now it is 1:17. I will see you at 1:22. Alrighty, so welcome back, guys. I hope you enjoyed a short one. It's a lot to take in, so yeah, just relax. We have a lot of good information. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, guys, portfolio communications are strategic, not just the community finds who needs what information, when, in what form, through which channel, and for what purpose. So, I'm reading because this is very, very important. So, stakeholders here are wide ranging and really need to manage all of them. So you give them what they need, and there is no cookie cutter communication we use here. So making sure that your communication is customized for every single stakeholder as per their needs and requirements. So with that, let's move to the next slide. So stakeholder analysis is not a list you make once. It is an ongoing portfolio activity. Adam maps each stakeholder's current level of engagement against the level he needs. So remember, guys, Adam is our portfolio manager. So what he does, he maps each stakeholder's current level of engagement against the level of his needs in that moment. And then he plans the action to close the gap. A stakeholder communication needs can change for various reasons. One example could be, where I had a stakeholder or sponsor who was given extra responsibility. So now you have to provide them information maybe related to two components instead of one they were responsible for originally. So you keep on monitoring the communication needs of your stakeholders, and particularly the stakeholder that can influence the portfolio more than others. That's another exercise you should be very well versed with as a portfolio manager. How do you weigh the needs based on the stakeholders influence on your work? So the mix run from um, you know the stakeholders who impact, take them like seriously, put them in your priorities at the top. Make sure you help them get the communication at the right time with the right content and with the right recommendations as a portfolio manager. The matrix runs from unaware to resistant to neutral to supportive to leading. So here what we are looking at is the stakeholder. Yeah, put in the chat, guys. What do you think? What are we mapping here in this matrix? So in this matrix, Adam, who is our portfolio manager, he maps the current engagement of a stakeholder against a desired level. So as a portfolio manager, you want engagement from certain stakeholders at a certain level. So that certain level that you have decided is the desired level of engagement. So from audience in the chat, how trying to do here. So there is a current level of engagement from each stakeholder Adam desires, but that is Adam's desire, and that might not be a reality. So current reality could be very different from Adam's desire. So what do we do here? We map the current state of engagement and we measure it against the desired state, and then we close the gap deliberately. So the hardest is who feared AI tools would replace them. So this matrix from unaware to resistant to neutral to supporting, and these are the levels of engagement. So people who are unaware means they don't even know if this exists. There are others who resist, which means that they don't like this initiative. And then there are others who are neutral, and they could be either, they don't care. They're like whether, it goes, the initiative, or doesn't go, we don't care. And then there are others who are supportive, and they are the ambassadors who would help you to land the message with other stakeholders too. And then there are others who take a lead, and that is the highest level of engagement. So the CHRO may already be supportive or leading. The governance board may need to move from supportive to leading. The developers may begin resistant because they fear AI will reduce their value. And the HR staff may sit at neutral simply because they do not yet see the benefits of reskilling. The portfolio manager's job is not to make everyone happy. It is to understand each person's interest, influence, and concerns, and then to engage them in a way that supports the portfolio. Think of a campfire. Some people are close and already warm, some are far away and cold, some are walking off into the dark. Engagement is the deliberate work of moving the right people closer to the right level of commitment. At Northwind, Adam removes or moves the developers by involving them in the AI guardrails, showing them how the tool increases their velocity and make them contributors to the change rather than its victims. So remember, guys, resistance is never solved by more status reports. It is solved by listening, involvement, and honest, targeted communication. One tool that we can really leverage here as a portfolio manager is the change management models. So one of the model that is widely used in the organization is ProSize ADKAR. And ADKAR stands for awareness and desire, like the first A and D. K is for knowledge, A is for ability, and R is for reinforcement. The model together really brings you how to manage change from generating awareness to reinforcing change, because it is very important to make sure that change sticks and people do not go back to the old way of doing work. So ADKAR is another something that as a portfolio manager you guys can leverage to move people from a certain engagement bracket to the desired level of bracket by making sure that they are aware, they have the knowledge, they have the ability to get their buy-in. So this is the scenario where many of our concepts come together. So let me tell you this as a story. In month 7 of the execution, Northwind's ERP vendor announces a native AI module that overlaps with in-house Copilot we are already building, the one already consuming our source architects. So known scenario, if you are into program and portfolio management domain, that with AI and automation, if you go back 2 years ago, guys, our world looked very, very different. In organization, few years ago, like, these ChatGPT or these type of tools were kind of the curse word. Where now I was talking to a TD developer last week, and they are actually given GPT access to do their coding work. So this is how much has changed. In every day you wake up in the morning and there are new tools, and now the organization's success really depends on how fast they can change. So the change muscle building is what is happening all over. So that makes it very important for a portfolio manager who's responsible to execute the organizational strategy. That is not a 5 years thing anymore, guys. So organizations are revisiting their strategy on a very shorter in the past. So an ongoing revisiting of your work is very important, and this is exactly what is happening here. So this organization, Northwind, was in the middle of implementing their ERP vendor, who is their system of record for HR currently. They have announced that overlaps with in-house Copilot. So what do we do here? We are already building something. We are halfway. We have invested a lot of money and time and effort. Our people are really engaged and we are making good progress. So what do we do? How do we let go all the work we have already done? So a weak response here would be to continue since money has been spent. Sunk cost bias. It is very important for a portfolio manager to understand what a sunk cost bias is, and Adam to cancel the build on his own. So remember, guys, Adam is a portfolio manager. He recommends, he does not approve decisions. So in exam, it's very important for you to remember sunk cost bias exists, and you have to be aware of that. And as a portfolio manager, when the question says that Adam, like our portfolio manager, makes the decision, mostly it's a wrong choice. So Adam cannot cancel the existing project or program on his own. That violates governance. What Adam actually does is the PMI aligned response. He pauses the build. First thing he does is pauses. He spends 3 weeks comparing the two business cases on real information system data, weighing the cost, value, risk, dependencies, capacity, and alignment. And then he brings two very clear options to HR investment console rather than deciding alone. Furniture and then discovering a ready-made option that meets most of your needs at a lower cost and a faster delivery. A mature buyer does not say, "Oh, I have already paid a deposit, so I must ignore the better choice." They compare on total value and decide. The console chooses a hybrid, adopt the vendor module for 60% of the capability, reduce the in house scope, save $800,000, free the architects for higher value work, and still hit the automation target. The lesson for the exam is this: portfolio managers adapt to change by analyzing the impact, recommending options, and obtaining governance approval where needed. And that is something we have to remember. We do not make decisions on our own, either as project or program or portfolio managers. So value management is one of the most important ideas in the whole discipline, guys, because a portfolio exists to deliver value as the strategy defines it. That value may be tangible, such as cost savings, productivity enhancement, or time reduction. It may also be intangible, such as capability, trust, reputation, or better. Both kinds are real and both must be managed deliberately. Cycle, guys. We identify the value each component should create, and that is a must. So when we break down the work into components, we want to make sure and we identify the value each of those component is bringing to the organization or to the portfolio. We plan how and when it will be realized. So how do we realize the value and when the value will be reached? So we do not just deliver the project on time, on budget, on scope. We deliver the benefits. We measure those benefits against the targets we had in the beginning, and we report confirmed value to the governance body. The trap to avoid is confusing a deliverable with value. A project can deliver a platform. Value only appears when the organization uses that output to achieve a benefit that we originally planned to achieve. Think of a gym membership. Buying the treadmill is enough. Working on it regularly is adoption. Improve health is the benefit, and lower and better energy are the values. Simply owning the treadmill changes nothing at all. At Northwind, the AI learning platform is not valuable because it exists. It is valuable because employees complete the training, apply the skills, and lift their productivity, which was the original objective. And that is why the closure rules matter. Component successful until the benefit owner confirms that the value was realized, delivered, valuable. All right, so now we prove whether the portfolio actually worked, and Adam does that by reporting realized value against the objectives or spent. The figures on the side, starting with $2.1 million in the first year cost saving. So 87% the planned benefits on track or delivered, a 28% reduction in time to hire against 30% target, and $800,000 served through the month 7 ERP pivot. So this is portfolio performance, guys, and value management in action on this slide. PMI expects the portfolio manager to consolidate the performance metrics, monitor the portfolio's health, report progress towards objectives, and keep records. Think of a scoreboard. A team does not win because it ran a lot of drills. It wins because it bored. Activity is practice. Value is the scoreboard. And in a portfolio, the scoreboard is the set organization. Adam's reports keep the governance conversation on outcomes. If the is only reporting meetings held or money spent, the board would have no idea whether the question asks how to demonstrate portfolio success. Choose the answer that measures performance against the business goals and confirms benefits. Substitute for value. Portfolio risk is the strategy and to the value case. It is not simply project risk made larger. A project level, a risk may threaten scope, schedule, cost, or quality. At portfolio level, risk threatens the strategic objectives themselves, the investment balance, the capacity, the repetition, and the portfolio's ability to deliver its benefits. Adam manages it with three things in particular: a risk appetite, portfolio risk register, and management reserve. The appetite is the level of risk we will accept. Northwind has high appetite for technology and innovation, but a low appetite for data governance and operational stability. That dual stance fits an Amazon like company. Move fast, but never ever compromise on compliance. The register tracks the portfolio level risks that are owned and monitored with three architect bottlenecks: developers, attrition, the ERP vendor dependency, and a shortfall in reskilling adoption. And the management reserve is funding held for portfolio level uncertainty released by governance, which is exactly what funded the rapid response to the month 7 surprise without derailing the other components. Think of a think of a fleet at a sea. A project risk is leak in one boat. A portfolio risk is the storm pattern facing the whole fleet. Adam manages the fleet towards the destination, not just one boat's hull. So, on the exam at portfolio level, you balance threats and opportunities against strategic value. You do not try to eliminate every risk at component level. We are now in the final part of its purpose. So, to connect everything you have seen back to the exam and to your study path. By now, it should be very clear that the examination content outline is not an abstract document. Every domain describes what Adam actually performed. Strategic alignment appeared when he translated the objectives, selected components, built scenarios, and updated the roadmap. Governance appeared through the console, the thresholds, and the recommendations. Performance appeared through the monitoring, the dashboards, the value metrics, and the rebalancing. Risk appeared through the appetite, the register, and the reserve. And communication appeared through the stakeholder analysis, the engagement, and the credibility of his reporting. Think of a jigsaw puzzle. Each domain is a piece. On its own, it is useful, but only together do they form the full picture of portfolio management. The exam deliberately mixes the pieces and asks you to put them back together. Your study plan should follow the same logic. Learn the standard, map it to the outline, and practice scenarios while asking for questions of each one. What domain is this? Who holds the authority here? What artifact supports the decisions? And what action protects strategic value? So this is the exam map, guys. Strategic alignment and portfolio performance are 25% each. So together they are half of the exam. Governance is 20% and risk and communication are 15% each. Let me connect each one to what you saw today. In strategic alignment, Adam evaluated the strategy of HR, converted objectives, set the criteria, and did a scenario. In portfolio performance, he monitored the portfolio's health, rebalanced the architect capacity, and measured results against the goals. In governance, the council set the model, approved the plan, authorized components, and decide on Adam's recommendations. In risk, he defined the appetite of the organization, maintained the risk register, analyzed the dependencies, and held a management reserve to ensure we have capacity to tackle the risks when they become issues. And in communication, he analyzed stakeholder engagement, the resistant groups, and keep his reporting credible and consistent. So here is a use same situation can be read through five lenses. The vendor surprise was strategic alignment because the strategy might change. I was dealing with this for a while. So it was governance because approval was needed. It was performance because scope and capacity changed. It was risk because a dependency changed, and it was communications because the stakeholders had to understand the pivot. So do not memorize the domains in isolation. Learn to see all five lenses inside one scenario, and this is how you can make sure that you identify the distractors from the right exam choice. So your path to PFMP should be structured and it has five clear steps. Step one is eligibility. Map your real experience work, looking for times you evaluated strategy, recommended components, supported governance, balanced capacity, managed portfolio risks, and standard in scenarios, not in definitions. For every concept, ask what the portfolio manager. Step three is to prepare for the panel review, building an experience summary that is honest, specific, and genuinely about the portfolio responsibilities. Step four is to drill scenarios, questions until your instincts are automatic. Recommend rather than decide, value over activity, strategy over preference, governance over heroic, and engagement over silence. And step five is to sit 4 hours in 170 questions, but one consistent way of thinking, and you will recognize Adam's situation in those scenarios. Think of training for fitness. You do not build strength by reading about it once. You practice PFMP, preparation is the same. You read, you apply, you explain, your answer scenarios, you review your mistakes, and you repeat until portfolio thinking becomes natural. And we are here to help you at every one of these steps. So, one thing, guys, I really want you to understand here, PFMP is not like a PMP exam. We have millions of PMPs in the world. We only have less than 3,000 portfolio managers. PMI really takes your application very seriously. It goes through a panel review. In some scenarios, they might invite you for an interview. And also, from my students, I've seen a lot of applications rejected, the application approved in like 4 to 6 months. So we really help you at all levels here, from the time you fill in your application till the time you have your certification in hand. So connect and we will help you better. Um, thank you guys. And now we will move into Q&A section. So yeah, so let's pause for a minute and then we will answer your questions. All right, guys. So we have questions from different. So we usually gather all the questions and answer them at the end. So we still have like 7 minutes to go. So I'm quickly going through as many questions I can. Feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn or through our website after this session. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile was shared in the chat, so feel free to connect. And if you are watching the recording, also my LinkedIn profile is given in our YouTube channel description. So feel free to reach out if we cannot answer your questions. So guys, our first question is, who should go for PFM higher level? So just to rephrase that, PFM senior project portfolio managers, PMO leaders, and transformation leaders. Out of some I can remember on top of my head, if like in generic term, if you don't hold these job titles, here's what you need to look for. If you help prioritize initiatives, manage investment, balance resources, or support leadership decisions, PFMP can be very relevant. Your experience will be counted towards the application, and I can guarantee that going through PFMP curriculum on its own will change your mindset, and you will be really a focused, high performing portfolio manager instead of somebody who is just assuming and working. So our next question is, what is the difference between PMP, PGMP, and PFMP? All right, so I think we went through that as well. PMP is mainly for managers who are managing one project. PGMP is for managers who are managing related projects as a program. And then portfolio management is very strategic certification. It's one of the most prestigious certifications PMI has. It manages the overall portfolio and checks whether projects and programs are aligned with business goals. One of the biggest difference between a project, program, and portfolio is that your portfolio is ongoing and also include operations, which is not part of the program or project. Okay, so our next question is, what are the current PFMP eligibility requirements? Guys, we have done a separate video that we post the link as well. So we did post that video where we give full walkthrough of PF requirements in my live page. So always you have the up-to-date information. We are posting the link in the chat again. So I will pause this so we can focus on the next exam. You can go through that video on your own to give you full picture of what is needed for the exam, or what makes you eligible to write the exam. Okay, so the next question is, what is the PFMP exam format? Okay, so another something I really wanted to let you know, guys, that PMI takes PGMP and PFMP very seriously. Um, that these exams you cannot take online, at least until I looked last or when I wrote my exams. You have to go to center for these exams. So these exams are not available to take from home. That is the big difference. So according to PMI's current page, the exam has 170 questions and 240 minutes. It is offered in English. During preparation, practice scenario questions are used because the exam checks decision making and not the definition. Again, we have put the link of that video in the chat, so feel free to go and check that video because it answers all your questions. What are the portfolio exam domains again, guys? Look for the ACO. We give you ACO walkthrough, and that would help you to understand this question as well. What is a PFMP panel review? So PFMP includes a panel review because before exam scheduling. So PMI subject matter experts, your SMEs, review your experience. So write real examples. So unlike PMP, when you apply for a PFMP certification, your application and experience particularly is reviewed by a panel selected by PMI, who are the SMEs in portfolio domain. So you write real example, explain your own role, and connect your work to strategy, governance, performance, risk, and communication. So go through this lesson we shared today, and that would really help you to understand the work you are going to list on your application to ensure that your application is approved through the panel. So our next question is, how should someone prepare for PFMP? So start with the PMI exam content outline that really tells you what is needed. One of the myth is that I always like to and love to burst in all my sessions, particularly where I'm talking about exam, that people look at the standards or books. In case of PMP, they look at PMBOK. MP portfolio also has a standard. So that standard is not what you need to know for exam. You need to really, really pay attention to ECHO. ECHO tells you what is exactly tested in the exam, what sections, what percentage, and how do you prepare for that. So it's very important for you to understand the ECHO inside out, then study portfolio governance, benefit realization, risk resource capacity, stakeholder communication, and portfolio performance. Do not memorize, guys. Practice thinking like a senior decision maker. So that is why it is very important for you to use multiple tools and not just memorize the definition. So with that, guys, we are at time. Thank you so much for your time and your attention today. We still have some questions. I'll try to answer them later. To reach out on any of your questions. I want to close with the single message at the heart of this session. Think like a portfolio manager and then get certified. Senior manager, a portfolio managers connect strategy to authorized work, works through governance, balance limits, resources, engages stakeholder, manages risks to value, and proves the benefits were realized. In our case, Adam Johns did not succeed because he delivered every project exactly as first imagined, on time, on budget, on schedule. He succeeded because he kept the portfolio aligned to strategy as conditioned by discipline. The objective, the criteria, the scenario, the thresholds, the data, the capacity analysis, and the engagement, the risk appetite, the reserve, and the value realization. That judgment is exactly what the PFMP certifies, and it is why organizations need people who can manage the whole investment system, not only individual delivery. So please bring me your questions now on LinkedIn about eligibility or study timelines, the panel review scenarios. You can connect me after the session, and I would be happy to help you. I will leave you with one phrase to carry out the door. Project deliver outputs, programs deliver benefits, and portfolio delivers strategy. Thank you.